Tomorrow night, the University of Guam Micronesia Area Research Center will be presenting the Mannengon March and Concentration Camp Survivor Accounts. This is a film produced by research associate Arlene Santos Steffi, and many of you have seen her right here on the stations of KUAM in her show Y Tinatau Marianas, which is the peopling of the Marianas. But with us in studio to talk about her film project is Josh Tenorio, who was the chairman of the Department of Chamorro Affairs Board of Trustees at the time that approached Steffi about the project, correct?
A long time ago.
Yeah, a long time. How long ago was that? And tell me the story behind that.
It's already 3 governors back. And so I was the board chair of the Guam Preservation Trust and the Department of Chamorro Affairs Board. And at the time, we had a panel that was doing the work of what is, again, now the Restored Council of the Arts and Humanities Agency. And at the time, there's a lot of push to try and document the situation at Mannengon and throughout the island during World War II. And I think although there have been some documentaries in the past, this project wasn't necessarily to have documentaries. It was to collect oral history. And you know, one of the most in-depth interviewers, I think, on Guam, especially who can speak Chamorro, is Arlene. And she has a way of, you know, disarming you. And she cares, actually, about what you're talking about. And I think that it started off as a good project, and it became, I think, now her life's advocacy for at least this stage in her life. Mm-hmm.
Have you had a chance to, I guess, pre-screen it? No?
No, I haven't. I'm going to be screening it for the first time with everybody, but I can tell you that over the course of the years, right, and this is already 12, 13 years going on, I had some relatives that were interviewed, and although Arlene would never really reveal all of the details of those interviews, in many cases, you know, this was an opportunity for some of these people to be at peace with what had happened to them, not only during the war, but all the things that happened to them after the war that resulted from the wartime experiences. And I think a lot of us realized that our parents or our grandparents who were alive at that time, although there had been some discussions about the situation, never really in detail. People, if you even in your own family, you'll notice people never really wanted to get into the details of exactly what happened. It really took a lot for them to dig deep and down there into places that they wanted to leave behind. And the purpose was to share with everybody now, and especially I think people my age and younger who have no concept about the hardships that has shaped the island. And I think this is one of several projects I'm hoping people will continue to remember what happened to our people, which is, I mean, I just can't imagine a life, I'm sure you the same, where, you know, they had to deal with the war and so much devastation, loss, and ugliness. But there were also some excellent stories of people coming together and humanity that I think are going to come to light also through these interviews.
And you know, we're such a small community, and you know, a lot of us have heard these stories, that especially for those who've grown up on Guam, and I'm sure probably within your family. Well, what would you say, or what is your family's story?
Well, I tell you that, and Dr. Hattori, a good friend of mine, we often talk about, you know, for our parents and our grandparents, there's the concept of time is time before the war and time after the war, and how radically different life was before the war and after the war, and everything that came out. So my dad was a baby. He passed away now, or not now, but it's been 21 years. But he was a toddler during the time in concentration camp. My grandma on my mom's side was there. She talked about, you know, being at church when the bombs came down. So I've heard bits and pieces of things throughout growing up, but, you know, there's some real tales also that, you know, I think we were shielded from. You know, some of the things that happened, most of my grandpa's siblings moved to the States after the war. Hardly any of them talked about what happened with their kids. And it always occurred to me that there must be, it was such a traumatic thing for them to decide to leave Guam and leave and never look back at what happened. So, you know, tomorrow night we'll see there's 114 people that were interviewed. And I hate to point out that majority of them have passed away in the recent years. And these are some of Guam's brightest people, but also some of, you know, your everyday people. I think that she captured and based on skills that she knows, was able to really cover and get a good sense about what happened during that time period. And I think we're going to be able to see that tomorrow night. And for those that don't catch it, I'm sure there'll be opportunities for them to get copies and take a look at it. I imagine that even just looking at the list of names, it already can stir some emotion for me. I mean, and just thinking about different interactions I've had with different people and what it meant for them to also speak up. A lot of them, and Arlene would tell me that sometimes a lot of them were trying to make peace with themselves before they passed away. And I think that this is just a glimpse into it, but I can tell you, I think that some of these interviews went for hours and hours and hours. So the amount of information and the trust and confidence that they placed in her to make sure to share the story that many of them never even shared with their own kids.
Well, I'm certainly excited to see it for myself, and I hope, you know, if you can, please try and catch the screening again. It is tomorrow night. The Mannengon March and Concentration Camp Survivor Accounts. It is a film by Arlene Steffi. It is set again for tomorrow. That is November 10th, 6 p.m. at the UOG Class Lecture Hall. Stay tuned. We are back with more after this.